Dear friends, I welcome you to the history class. Today we will study the first chapter of history. The name of the first chapter is Tracing Changes Through 1,000 Years. The following video will give you a short summary of the chapter. So listen carefully. After having listened to the video, if you have got textbook, please read the first chapter. Dear friends, a hearty welcome to the history class. Chapter 1. The title of the chapter is Tracing Changes Through 1,000 Years. In this chapter, we will focus on importance of periodization for the study of history, India during the medieval period, new terms for India, sources of the medieval period. The following slides will elaborate these points. So let us begin. Periodization. Periodization is the process of categorizing the past into discrete, quantified, named blocks of time in order to facilitate the study and analysis of history. In other words, it is the process of categorizing or dividing history into various time periods like ancient period, medieval period, and modern period. The ancient period of history is said to stretch from the time humans learned to write around 3000 BC up to 700 AD. The medieval period from 700 to 1700 AD, and the modern period from 1700 AD to date. India during the medieval period. The medieval period of Indian history is believed to extend from 700 to 1700 AD. The medieval period in India is further divided into the early medieval period, that is from 700 to 1200 AD, and the later medieval period from 1200 to 1700 AD. The term medieval. The term medieval refers to the Sultanate period in North India and Chola period in South India. In Europe, the medieval period is called as Middle Ages. It started around 5th century AD and lasted up to 16th century AD. The early medieval period of Indian history witnessed the rule of the Palas, the Pratiharas, and the Sultans of Delhi, who dominated the later period of history. New terms for India. During the ancient period, Indian subcontinent was called by many names. The most important of these were Aryavarta and Bharatvarsha. The Greeks called it Inde, that was formed from the river Indus. Similarly, the name used by the Chinese people for the Indian subcontinent was Intu or Tianchu. When the Arabs came to India in the 18th and the 19th centuries, they called it Hind. The term became popular from the book Tariq-i-Hind, written by the Arab traveler Al-Biruni in the 11th century AD. Under the rule of the Arabs, Turks, Afghans, and Mughals in the medieval times, the region came to be known as Hindustan. It mostly comprised the land beyond the Sindhu River and North India. It was Babur, the founder of Mughal Empire, who was the first to refer the Indian subcontinent as Hindustan. Sources of the medieval period. For the study of the medieval period, continuity is seen in the use of sources such as inscriptions, buildings, coins, and literature. In fact, this period has the first good examples of written records of history, which give us a better insight into this period. Let us discuss the two main historical sources, literary sources and archaeological sources, to know about the medieval period. Literary sources. Literary sources include chronicles of court historians, biographies, autobiographies, jargons and correspondence, letters of the kings, other court records such as those regarding justice and taxes, and travel logs. During the medieval period, a number of chronicles, accounts, and literary texts were written. Among the early works of this period, Alberini's Taqiq-i-Hind, Kalhan's Rajatarangni, and Chand Bardai's Prithviraj Raso, Tusuk-i-Baburi or Babarnama by Babar, and Tusuk-i-Jahangir by Jahangir, etc. are some important sources. Accounts by foreign travelers. Many foreign travelers visited India during this period, and they wrote their accounts based on the prevalent political, social, and economic system. Ibn Battuta, the 14th century AD Morocco-born traveler, wrote about the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Marco Polo, the Italian ambassador in the court of the Chinese Emperor Kublai Khan, passed to South India in the year 1292 AD. He wrote an interesting account of the social customs and culture of South India. Archaeological sources. Archaeology can be defined as a study of the past in the light of material remains left behind by our ancestors. Sources of archaeology include remains of buildings, pottery, weapons, ornaments, sculptures, inscriptions, and coins. Inscriptions. Inscriptions are writings engraved on hard surfaces like metal, wood, rock, and stone. The study of inscriptions is called epigraphy. I repeat, the study of inscriptions is called epigraphy. Inscriptions are an important source of information about India. Inscriptions were initially made on the faces of cliffs, on stone pillars, inside caves, and on rocks. Coins and other artifacts. In the medieval period, coins were issued by almost every important ruler and even invaders like Mahmud of Ghazni. These coins were of different metals like gold, silver, copper, and bronze. A book on coins titled Drarya Pariksha, an examination of coins, was written during the reign of Alauddin Khalji. It lists the coins minted during the reign of the Sultan. Monuments and buildings. Monuments and buildings often provide information about the period during which they were built. Temples, palaces, forts, tombs, and mosques can tell us not only of the religious practices but also about the political, economic, and social conditions of that time. Paintings. Paintings are another major sources of information which throw considerable light on the social, religious, and political life of the people through its depictions. The miniature paintings developed under the Mughal rule tell us a lot about the court life, methods of warfare, dress, jewelry of the rulers. Use of sources for writing history. Archaeological sources like temples, mosques, and various monuments built during the medieval period are a rich source of religious and cultural history. A historian reconstructs the past with the help of clues provided by both literary and archaeological sources.